So this morning I'm like, all right, I enjoy doing my 30 team previews. So let's do this another way. I'm finding the exact right spot here. First off, my dad, 7-Eleven currently has Jersey Cups, and I got checked today because for $2.09 and a free first fill, they're Slurpee cups, but I don't drink Slurpees, so that's Diet Coke in there. For $2.09, they're honestly really good. Now, my local 7-Eleven here only has Czech, Russians, Swedes, and Finns. But there's a cup for every team. Well, it has the Americans too, but anyhow. I'm likely not going to buy the Russians and the Americans. I don't know about the Canadians, Team North America or Team Europe. I like the Czech. I love that coat of arms. It's just fantastic. So the traditional jerseys I'm far more into than the gimmicky ones. And USA with just USA on the front seems kind of boring to me. So, all right. So I thought, well, how can all 30 teams win the Stanley Cup? And I thought, okay, so there's two challenges. One, I have to come up with a way realistically to say yes, all 30 teams can win the Stanley Cup to make all 30 fan bases happy. And B, do it without sarcasm. Let's see how we do. Anaheim. Simple. Finish in first in the division and make it mean something. They've lost too many Game 7s. They haven't been able to put away teams that they should be able to. There's no lineup changes they really need to make. They have everything they need to win. They just need to show the desire. Arizona, they need to be in a playoff spot at the deadline and be able to rent a couple of guys with the cap space they have left. And they need Mike Smith to be a fantastic starter. They need the Mike Smith he looked like he was going to be earlier in his career to show up. If Mike Smith can be that goaltender again, then sure. Boston, for Boston to get back in the Stanley Cup picture, Backes has to find the fountain of youth, and they desperately need for Colin Miller to become a top four defenseman. And it wouldn't hurt if Tuukka Rask had a Vezina season. Buffalo, rapid development by Jack Eichel, rapid development by their blue line, and Robin Lehner would have to be lights out as well. Calgary. I always say it's their goaltending, and to win the Stanley Cup, it's going to be more than that. Their young guns would have to be able to fight through a lot of tough checking in the West in the playoffs, and that's not an easy task. And they'd also need Giordano to have an out of his mind season on the blue line. Yes, they have other good defensemen, but Giordano is still the one that stirs the pot. Carolina, this is when it gets tough. For Carolina to win the Stanley Cup, one of their two goalies has to be a premier starter. Hayden Fleury has to make this team and make something of himself. Noah Hannafin would have to take a massive step forward as a top flight defenseman. And they need for at least, I would say, two of their young guns, whether it's a rookie or one of their Elias Lindholm type or Elias Lindholm. Man. Elias Lindholm type forwards to take that step forward. It's a lot. It would take a lot for Carolina to win the Cup. Chicago, their depth signings have to work out. Basically, all of them have to work out. And losing Andrew Shaw can't hurt very much. For Colorado, the coaching change will help. Basically, they have to improve their defensive game. And they have to hope that one of their two goaltenders is a starter capable of going deep in the playoffs. Columbus, oh boy, for Columbus to win the Stanley Cup, a team that's played for 20 years and has two wins in the Stanley Cup playoffs to show for their efforts. For them to win the Stanley Cup, much like Arizona, they'd have to be in a playoff spot at the deadline and be able to make some rental moves. It's tough to make rental moves when you're at the cap, though. So they'd have to get really, really creative. And again, they're a team that really needs one of their goaltenders to step up. It could be Korpisalo. It honestly could be Korpisalo. It wouldn't surprise me if it was, actually. Okay, Dallas. Well, Sagan can't be hurt. And they need to figure out a way to, if they can't fix their goaltending, they need to find a way to break through every team's defense and just be able to score 4 or 5 a game, which is almost impossible in today's game. I get it. Or, maybe one of their goalies develops some consistency in the playoffs, but that seems just as unrealistic. Detroit. This is a tough one. Larkin and Mantha would have to be key guys. Tatar would have to re-emerge. Nyquist would have to be absolutely top-notch. Nielsen has to basically put up at least the 52 points he put up last year, if not more. And they need at least a couple of youngins on their blue line to develop. Goaltending, I'm fine with Mrazek. Honestly, I think Mrazek's a good goaltender. Edmonton. For Edmonton to win the Stanley Cup, well, Connor McDavid has to have a fantastic season. There's a lot of people who, when I hear some of the talk about McDavid right now, it reminds me of the talk that I've heard about Sidney Crosby for the last 10 years. So if you're an Oilers fan, tired of hearing about little stupid nicknames for McDavid and people, talking smack about him, make friends with the Pittsburgh fan base. Talk to them. Talk to them about the smack that's been talked about Crosby. When you have the best player, people will talk a lot of smack. Florida. Luongo has to drink from the fountain of youth. And all of these analytics plans that they've made in the offseason, all these guys they've picked up for their analytics, they have to work. It has to work out for them. The Kings. It wouldn't hurt if the Kings could get Dustin Brown back up into 20-25 goal range. Certainly the sports forecaster predicts that he'll get back to 20 goals. I don't know. He looks pretty done. And they need their depth moves to work. They have the goaltending. They have everything else. They have the coaching. Minnesota, this one's tough. For Minnesota to win the Stanley Cup, you need everybody to buy into a team game. You need to be able to roll 4 lines. You need Dubnyk to be able to be an elite goaltender in the playoffs. And you need Boudreau to be able to win Game 7s. It is a huge dark cloud over his career as a coach. Montreal, the Weber trade has to work. Shea Weber has to prove himself. It doesn't matter what Subban does right now. Shea Weber in Montreal has to prove himself. And Price has to be healthy. That's absolutely required. Nashville, they really don't have to do much. But Rene has to be better than he was last year. If Rene's better than he was last year, they are definitely, they could definitely pull off a cup win. Watch for UC Saros if Rene gets off to a slow start. The Devils, Schneider needs to steal them lots of games. Hall needs to be rejuvenated as a member of the Devils, which would also rejuvenate Adam Henrique. And everybody needs to buy in because it is a kind of a thin lineup. And Zacha, if he can emerge as a future top 6, even if he's third line this year and shows upside, that's fantastic for them. The Islanders, John Tavares. John Tavares has the ability to be a guy who drags a team to a Stanley Cup. He does, absolutely. And he needs to show that now. And if Matt Barzal can come up and play and produce a bit, that won't hurt either. The Rangers. Well, they're kind of relying on Buchnevich coming in. They're definitely relying on VC coming in. I am hesitant to put VC in that category until he's played. They need Kreider to score more than he did last year. And they need their defense to play like they can. Part of the reason that I kind of have an issue with some of the advanced stats, it's not that I don't believe the advanced stats, it's I know these guys are better than that. I know the Rangers defensemen are better than what their stats have shown the last couple of years. They just, and I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if it's something in their personality. I don't know if it's something in the team atmosphere. But in my eyes, they're a better team than what they've shown. So they need that defense to do it. And based on Lundqvist's horrible game against Team Europe, that can't be the Lundqvist that plays regular season with the Rangers. It was an exhibition game. It doesn't count for anything. And even if it was in the World Cup, it doesn't count for anything. But I tell you, If he shows any kind of regression this year and he drops his save percentage down to, say, 9-10, they don't make the playoffs. Ottawa Senators, for them to win the Cup, they need their goaltending to stay sharp, and they need a lot of young players to get better and emerge quickly. And the Broussard deal has to work out. For the Flyers, it's going to come down to their young defense. Goes to Spear can't show himself to be a fluke or a flash in the pan. He has to make further steps. A 50-point season from Goes to Spear would be fantastic. He had 46 last year in 64, so if he plays a full 82 games, he can score 50 points. They need... I would think if Couturier can finally show the offensive prowess he showed in junior, I think that would be good for them. And in net, they need Neuwirth. I watched Neuwirth against Team North America the other day, and he's a good goalie. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I like Neuwirth a lot. I like him better than Mason. Pittsburgh, well, it's Pittsburgh. They won the Cup last year. All they have to do is avoid that Stanley Cup hangover, and they can win it again. For St. Louis Blues to win the Cup, it's going to be tough because they lost a lot of depth in the offseason. You lose Backus, Brouwer, Elliott, Ott are the main guys that are gone. And Saboka comes back, which helps. Perron comes in. Ferraro's an added guy, sort of an extra. Their blue line looks fantastic. It'll be interesting to see if their goaltending holds up. So Jake Allen has to be at the top of his game for the season. Their blue line has to hold together, and they need to be able to roll 4 lines. If they can do all that, and if they're bound and determined to have Hitchcock go out on a winning note, they can win it. San Jose, they were close last year. They need Thornton and Marleau to have one more year of betraying Father Time. It's getting harder for Marleau. Thornton has shown more resistance to the aging process. Maybe drinking the same drinks as Jaromir Jagr. And Martin Jones needs to show that last year wasn't just a one-time thing. He needs to show that he can be the starter for this team for the next 5 to 10 years. Other than that, yeah, San Jose can win it. For Tampa to win the Cup, well, since they're predicted by every magazine have got to win the Stanley Cup, they really don't need to do much. But Stamkos needs to have a comeback season of sorts. It is hard to say that a guy who scores 36 goals in 77 games needs a comeback season. But, or no, he played 77 games. But coming off the injury he had, and its odd, vague-ish nature, and 64 points in 77 games is low for him. So yeah, he needs a comeback season. If he scores 50 and if he shows he can take over a game, and Jonathan Drouin also emerges as a top 6 forward, I don't think anybody can stop them, but there's a lot of ifs in there. For the Toronto Maple Leafs to win the Stanley Cup, I'm just waiting until some people stop laughing. I'm not doing any sarcasm here. I know people are going to be like, oh God, he's wearing a Toronto jersey and he just said it for the Toronto Maple Leafs to win the Stanley Cup. I get it. I'm wearing this because I haven't worn this in a while and I like it. It's a nice jersey. I will never take away from the Leafs that they have nice jerseys. This is part of the reason I haven't ordered the new one yet because I like this one. I just bought it. So if I get the other Leafs jersey right away, I officially look like a Leafs fan. But for the Leafs to win the Stanley Cup, well, Frederik Andersen needs to be a Vezina goaltender. Because with this blue line, he's going to need to stand on his head. Roman Polak needs to be the Polak he was. That sounded really bad. I didn't mean he needs to be the Roman Polak, not Polak like the slang term for Polish people. He needs to be the Roman Polak he was in San Jose that went to the Stanley Cup Final. So he needs to play protected minutes. He can't be top 4, but he can be top 6. Zaitsev has to be top 4. If Zaitsev struggles, then Toronto can't win the Stanley Cup. I'm shocked that I even just said those words. And they need a lot of, basically all their rookies have to be fantastic. So we're talking Marner, Nylander, and Matthews all have to play out of their minds good for Toronto to win the Stanley Cup. Now, the Vancouver Canucks. Let me go ahead and take another drink from my beverage. It might take a while for the laughing to die down. Now there's going to be rage from Canucks fans who state that, of course, we can be in the playoffs. Of course. We were in the playoffs 2 years ago, and then last year we missed because of injuries. And there's no reason. We're not that bad. They're still making excuses. Benning's a good GM. I'm just an idiot because I can't see his plan. Okay. All right. You guys done? All right. Let's go with it. The Vancouver Canucks win the Stanley Cup if the best way for Vancouver to suddenly be Stanley Cup champions would be the 35-year-old Alex Burrows gets put on the Sedin line and has chemistry with them again immediately. I say this because you have Burrows with the Sedins, which is a line they had for years and worked really, really well. Eriksson bumps down to second line. Swap him on the other wing. Put him with Horvat, not Sutter. Horvat's got more offensive upside. You put him with Horvat and Hansen. On the third line, you got Sutter down there. And then Bertschy's on that line. And Virtanen, I guess, if he doesn't play in the minors. Fourth line, you'd have Edom, Gauntz, and Granlund, or Granlund and Gauntz, or however you want to arrange that. No, I'm not putting Rodin in the lineup. No. No, it's not happening, okay? Dorsett's the extra guy, because Dorsett has to be on the roster, because Dorsett's the key. Derek Dorsett, when I think of the Canucks lineup, it's sort of like Jar Jar Binks going into Phantom Menace when George Lucas is looking, going, the key to, and there's footage of him when they were making the movie going, the key to this movie is Jar Jar. Jar Jar is a funnier character than we've ever had. If we can get Jar Jar working, then we'll really have something special here. Canucks, locker room. The key to this team really is Derek Dorsett. I mean, Dorsett's a tougher player than we normally have had. The key to this is really find the right place to plug him into the lineup and just making sure if Dorsett works, then we've really got something special here. It fits. It fits. And I hate that it fits. And I hate that I just compared Derek Dorsett, who I like as a player, and I think he's perfectly serviceable on a fourth line, in theory. I just compared him with Jar Jar Binks. The most aggravating thing ever put on screen. The blue line, well, Goodbranson has to work out. Goodbranson has to prove that I'm wrong. That we didn't already have a Goodbranson and Triamkin, and that they're two completely different players. I have to be wrong about that. And Zbiza has to go. They have to have a blue line that's strong enough that Zbiza is not qualified to be on it, and he gets waived to the minors or he gets traded, one or the other. And in net, boy, if Ryan Miller can find whatever Yager and Thornton are drinking, that would be fantastic. For the Washington Capitals to win the Cup, I just have to be right. That's my prediction. Oh, excuse me. But, all kidding aside, and I promise no sarcasm, for the Capitals to win the Stanley Cup, just all their best players have to be the best players in a key game. So whether it's a game 6 and they're up 3-2, or it's a game 7, their key players have to be their key players, and they have to be able to finish a series when they have the chance. No more of this, we're the Capitals so we choke stuff. No more. For the Winnipeg Jets to win the Stanley Cup, well, Connor Hellebuck has to be the real deal. Patrick Laine has to be a... If Laine overachieves crazy, like if he scores, let's say, 40 as a rookie, and Scheifele piggybacks off that and has huge totals, and I don't mean Scheifele playing on his line, I just mean that everybody's covering Laine now, which frees up other players in Winnipeg to score more points and more goals. If Laine can be that guy, and if he can score like 40 goals as a rookie and just wow everybody, it opens up the ice for Ehlers, Wheeler, Scheifele, probably not Little, because Little's probably going to be the guy who ends up playing with Laine. Something tells me. But on the blue line, they need Buff to manage to be good and not take bad penalties. They need Trouba either in the lineup or at least traded or something, because they can't have that distraction going on. And if they trade Trouba, they need a defenseman in return. But that's it. So there, I went through all 30 teams, and here's how realistically every team in the NHL can win the Stanley Cup. And I managed not to make sarcasm out of it. But how realistic are the scenarios I talked about? They're not realistic in a lot of cases, but this is the fun of the preseason where, yes, everybody is undefeated because it's still the middle of September. But we're getting close, boys and girls. We're down to 20, I think it's 27 days now till the hockey season starts, or 26. We're getting close, and this stupid tournament starts tonight to kind of take our brains off of it a little bit, but it's close. And in a pre-tournament show on Hockey Central and Sportsnet today, I kept hearing them say the same thing. Well, as long as nobody gets hurt. Hopefully nobody gets hurt. Hopefully nobody gets injured. So I'm not the only one talking about this. How it would suck if guys get hurt, and as a result, they're out for the regular season. Because the real hockey's in October. And then the really important hockey's next June. So anyways, that's it from me for now. I will be back again later, of course. Your opinions are welcome. And again, this is not about negativity. This video is not about negativity. It's not about slamming any teams in particular. This is about, okay, realistically, how does my favorite team win the Stanley Cup? So go ahead in the comments, name which team you think can win the Stanley Cup if. And if it's not a favorite, awesome. Go out on a limb, because next June, if your team magically comes through and has some fantastic Cinderella run, you could look like a genius. So best of luck to you, and thanks for watching.